Here are 6 tips if you want to learn how to write in Spanish, regardless of your Spanish level right now. First, there's nothing inherently magical about writing compared to speaking, listening, and reading. After all, writing, as Hemingway said, there's nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed. So for these tips, I want to focus on concrete action steps that you can take, and these will be continual practices. I also want to focus on concrete tips and ones that you can actually use. Number 1 is reading bilingual poetry. I think this is for 2 main reasons. Number 1, the total amount of words you're going to consume is a lot lower, so it's a lot easier to focus on each individual word. And number 2, the thing I love about reading poetry, bilingual poetry, is often the books have Spanish on one side and English on the other, so you don't need to pull out your phone or go through a dictionary to look for words you don't know. You have it right there on the other side. Number 2 is to read young adult books that you already know. When I was learning Spanish, right when I got back from my first trip in Barcelona, the first thing I did was read all of the Harry Potter books in Spanish, and that's because I know the story so well. It didn't matter if I misunderstood things or didn't understand things, because I knew the story so well I could keep going. That's really key. And I always err on the side of easy. It helps your confidence a lot more if you choose an easier book and then go to a harder book. Rather than choose a harder book, it'd be a little bit too much and get discouraged. So books like Harry Potter, Hunger Games, Los Juegos del Hambre, I read the Aragon series. Those even might be a little bit more difficult. It's okay to go even easier than that. You can see right now, I finally graduated. My current read is El Viento Conoce Mi Nombre by the legend Chilean author Isabel Allende. But this took me like 5 years of consistent reading to get to. Let's move on. Number 3 is to watch TV with Spanish subtitles. And I'm not saying like watch all your TV in Spanish, but everything you watch, just have Spanish subtitles on. It's really easy. You'll be subconsciously learning words without even realizing. So that's an easy thing you can apply tomorrow. Number 4 is to speak. I think the ability to write in any language is, first you have to like think in it, and to think in it, it also helps a lot to speak in it. And I love to say that writing is really just thinking on paper. So any opportunity you have to speak is going to help a lot. And you can even challenge yourself to, I like to sometimes when I'm trying to write in Spanish, I'll try to challenge myself to think in Spanish. And this is where like a classic tip, journaling, comes in. But I have a bit of a different twist on journaling, which is tip number 5. And I like to choose prompts that are specific to who I am as a Spanish speaker. It's often much harder to translate what we know from English than to just speak what we can in Spanish. So prompts like, write about a food you had in a foreign country, like yo fui a Peru y yo comí el mejor ceviche del mundo. And that would be like a really good thing to journal on, talk about the restaurant experience, that sort of thing. Like maybe in Spain, where I lived, I might talk about tapas, the culture of tapas, how you order a menu, you get a first course, second course, third course all at once. But the point here is my prompts that I choose are going to be specific to experience I've had speaking Spanish, because it'll just make it a little bit easier. And I have a bunch of those listed in my article. And that's something you can do daily. You can do it every day. You can do it while traveling. You can do it while you're not immersed. So that's also, I love that. Number 6 is to hire a tutor or take a class or do some sort of workshop. Obviously, anytime you hire a coach or some sort, it's going to be a shortcut. I really improved my writing in Spanish, even after I spoke pretty well. When I was in university, at New York University, we had a program for Spanish speakers, and I took 2 semesters of creative writing in Spanish. And just to get 2 things, feedback and accountability, were really key for me to both gain confidence and see where like my common grammatical errors were, and just to force me to put words on paper. And yeah, those are my 6 tips. Ultimately, writing in Spanish is no different than speaking. I mean, it is very different, but the learning process, they have a lot of overlap. So just stick with your Spanish learning journey and practice writing in a bunch of different ways, see words, learn how to spell them, and you will become a good writer in Spanish.